Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. Wynn is part of my NAFE family. I love my NAFE family. I always say that the NAFE is very different than any other organization because we are a sisterhood. We are a group of women, no matter where we are, that care about each other. We're not about what's in it for me. We're about how can we help each other. And I'm very blessed. I've been a part of NAFE since 1980. And 19 years ago, I got my Hawaii network nominated me for a one-year term as a Western Regional Coordinator. I'm still doing it. And I was told by NAFE in New York, you're going to be here until you die. Then you can just be up in heaven taking care of all the NAFE girls up there. But I love it. I just meet so many wonderful people, and I'm the person that no matter what your needs are, you can call me anytime. I get calls sometimes at 2 in the morning, and I take them because I feel that if somebody's calling you, they need somebody or an answer at that time. I always say that showing up is like a treasure map. And it was a wonderful treasure to be here and actually meet my NAFE Wynn sisters. But what a more beautiful treasure for me this morning was meeting the girls from the Dove House. They are wonderful. And you know, I always say God never puts you in the wrong place. Because I was invited to come last year and I couldn't make it because I had another commitment. But they're wonderful, and why they're so close to me, and what the story many people don't know, is that I grew up in 26 foster homes and 4 children's homes. And I was on my own at 14. So when and yet I quit a very big job in Washington, D.C., where I had a staff of 800 to come and take care of my mother, who never took care of me. And even my own children said to me, Mama, why would you do that? She was never a mother to you. And I said, but she's still my mother. And you know, in my heart, I always knew that I was the best daughter. She never had any other children. And actually, the year that I spent with her before she died, we started to have a relationship, something I never had in my life. I never had a father. I never knew who my father was. So I grew up thinking, why did the man, my mother was married 5 times. The second man, I guess he was like the second man, I thought was my father, and he didn't want me, and then she didn't want me, and I thought, what did I ever do? But I realized then that our destiny is our own. We can go wherever we want to go. It does not matter where you come from. You know, when I lived in Sacramento, I did a lot with the young women who got pregnant and were the pregnant high schools from some of the projects. And I remember one time I was there and I was dressed in a suit, and I could see, because I'm very intuitive, I could see them saying, what does she know about what we're going through? And I did know a lot. And what was interesting, I remember there were 2 girls that I met that day, and this is all about leadership too. One of them was writing a book of poetry, and it was beautiful. She showed it to me. And the other girl said, she had a young daughter, and she said, I want to get out of the project, so I'm going to school to get into the nursing. And so I said to them, I would be happy to be their mentor, to call me, and every week we talked. I told the girl that I would get her book of poems published free, which I did. And the most wonderful thing, and I still have them today, because I've now lived in Southern California 25 years, so this is 25 years ago, I still have the 2 cards they made for me, which were the most beautiful cards that I ever got. See, I think gifts from the heart. Sometimes we run around to try to buy gifts for people, but a gift from the heart is so much more beautiful. And one of the things I like right here, I love the fact that leadership, whether you're a leader in your business, a leader in your community, or you're a leader in working for the government. I worked for the government for 5 years. So I understand some of the things that you go through working for the government. But I like this, making a difference one life at a time. And that's what I so admire about the Wynn Group, because they're into so many wonderful things where they're touching the community. Mary always puts me on the email list that you get, and I'm always so happy, and a couple times we've been able to feature some of your members into one of my members writes a book, a magazine every month online, the magazine for executive women. And I always like to put in women that they don't do what they do to get recognized. They do it because it comes from their heart. So one of the things I've learned, and as I said, I started working when I was 14. I used to take a bus, Greyhound bus, from near Palo Alto to San Francisco. So I would have to get up very early, and I would get in the office early, and I would try to learn everything I could learn, which then helped me for my next job. And every one of my jobs were like that. And then I ended up in corporate America in a couple of very big top jobs, about 4 companies over the years. But I think what's really important, you've got to believe in yourself. So the first thing you do is try not to be what other people want you to be. You want to be who you really are. So you need to spend time and say, who am I? What really makes me happy? Because I can tell you, when I worked for the government, and I did more than one job. I had a division, I managed the bid opening office and the bid sample room, and then I did special projects for the Commissioner of Federal Supply. So every party at GSA, I was in charge of. I was a single mom with, at that time, only 2 children home. And so I would go home every day with pains in my arm. And I would get up thinking, because I really didn't like my job. And I would get up saying, I hate this job. But then, you know, when you're a single mom and you need money, you do what you have to do. But one day I realized, if I continued to stay in something I didn't like, that I might die. So what good would my children be? So I quit my job. But the greatest thing is the 5 years I spent there trained me for my next career. I learned everything about government contracting, and I spent the next 10 years helping small businesses get government contracts, and I traveled all over the world. And then again, things happen where your career can change in a day. I was coming from San Diego to going home, I was going from one up the road, the drunk driver was coming down the road and hit me and spun my car around 7 times, and I didn't walk for a year. So you can't jump on planes when you can't walk. But it just happened that God put something else in my place. At that time, if you've ever been to California, you've probably heard of the thrifty drugstores, which then were bought by Rite Aid. Somehow, one day they called me and they said, will you help us staff every Rite Aid in California to go and do all the price changes? So I could sit on the floor with a pillow and my phone, and I did that, so that continued. So you can do whatever you need to do. You just put it out to the universe. The other thing, before I give you the things that I've learned, is we must learn to ask for what we want. We women are helpers. Somebody come to you and say, oh, will you help me do this? Oh yeah. Like Lottie said, we really mean this, but we say this. We need to say no. And I was very guilty of that. 3 years ago, I had breast cancer. And I had my one breast removed. And I think when you have something like that, suddenly it makes you stop and think. Every time now I think, do I really want to do this? And I remember the first time I said no to somebody, they said, but Robbie, you never say no. I said, read my lips. I'm going to say more no's when I don't want to do something. So really, and like Lottie said, be true to yourself. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do a good job. The other thing I've learned is a lot of times when we're asking for volunteers, instead of looking at what the tasks are of the volunteer, we just say, we need a volunteer, and then somebody raises their hand. When I was teaching nonprofit directors at the University of California, Riverside, in courses for 8 years, 8 weeks every year for 8 years, I told them, you pretend that money was no object. If money was no object, what kind of person would you look to hire? What would be the skills you need? And then when you say, I need a volunteer, you totally outline what the skill is you need. Because I find that if somebody has a talent, it's so easy for them to do the job. They can just, like I do PR. Somebody said to me, Robbie, could you help us in this organization to do PR? I could do it because I could write PR in a minute. Before I came, I wrote 5 stories. I do write for 3 newspapers and a magazine every month. And I had to get 5 stories done. I wrote 5 stories in one night. So if you're doing what you love, that's the answer. So just remember, and the other thing is I want you to each one of you to pat yourself on the back. Being a leader means you show up. You all showed up today, so that's the first thing. How many of you are supervising people? Well, how many want to get to the role where you supervise people? Oh, good. I agree with you. It isn't always easy to supervise people, especially in the government where you have to write evaluations 4 times a year. And you have 800 people. That can get kind of challenging. But, even in your jobs, if you have a small business, you got to look at how you're going to help them solve the problem. It's not about what you have to offer. And I don't care if this whole room, like Alati said, when she first went into doing financial, she said, oh, everybody's in the business. People buy from business they like, people they trust, people that you've built the relationship with. So the first step is build relationships with people. I have friends, one of my friends, she was 10 and I was 11 in Hawaii, because that's where I was born and raised. So we're still friends. People that love you and trust you, you may not hear from them all the time, but they're always there for you. And so remember that. It starts, in fact, this past weekend, I was on a panel in Los Angeles, and it was all about all the new social media, radio shows, TV shows, all the different social stuff, and then there was me. I mean, I do some of it, but I wasn't on there, because I said, if you don't build the relationships, and you don't have the people that care about you and trust you, they're not going to open your emails, they're not going to listen to your radio show, they are not going to come watch your TV show. So you start with that. You start with people, finding out how you can help them. Like Lottie said, everything she gave you was a start. You need to find out, you need to listen. How can you help them? Because if you're going to help somebody, you may not get it directly back from them, but they're going to come back. It's going to come back from so many people that, oh wow, this person really cared. It took time to learn about me. So the first thing in being a leader is to listen and find out about the people that you have working for you, or in the case if you're in business, the people who come and buy from you. I remember once at GSA, I had this girl, and it's a really weird feeling to have somebody sit across from you and never look you in the eye. Because you're thinking, oh my God, what did I do? And she worked for me for 5 years. About 4 years ago, she found me on Facebook, because I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn as Robbie Motter, and I'm on Twitter as Networking Queen. She found me and she said, you were the best supervisor I ever had in my life. And I thought to myself, how come you never looked at me, But that was her, and I had to understand that was where she was coming from. And it could have been a shyness, it could have been something in her life. It's okay. We have to take people for who they are and what they represent and understand that. Because then you're going to build trust with them. Everybody is not the same. There are some people you deal with, like I'm a person, you give me A and Z and leave me alone. And I will be at Z. I cannot be micromanaged. And it's interesting because I just did a fundraiser for the Women's Club, and it was one that I had done before, and it's something maybe you guys can do here, because in 4 hours we made almost $4,000. I know a lot of entertainers, so I called them all up and said, I need you to come and perform free. And they gulped, but then they said yes. And then we served lemonade, iced tea, and we had cookies. And I just went on Google and I found the name of every bakery in all the 4 towns around me, and I wrote them a letter, said I need you to donate at least 2 to 3 dozen desserts for this event, which is going to benefit the Women's Club, who does a lot, and also the Lions Club. And since I'd done the event before, I kept some of the names, so I created a card and sent it out to them and said, because you were here at my other 2 events, I would like you to have first refusal on tickets. And I let everybody know there was no tickets available at the door, and I sold out in 3 weeks. We had 280 people show up. That was all I could fit in the hall. And the Lions Club had no expenses. And the Lions Club walked away with $1,860, and the Women's Club got $1,860. People had it. We did it on a Sunday afternoon. So it was like an afternoon of entertainment and desserts and meeting people. And so, you know, sometimes you can do the simplest things. But again, we have to ask. So let's start with that. Now here's some 23 things I've learned as a business owner. It's since 1985. And it's interesting because my kids always knew me as a person who went to work, who was in a career, who had a job, a J-O-B. And then I became an entrepreneur, and you know you don't have those paychecks all the time. My own kids used to say to me, Mom, why don't you go get a regular job? But you know what, I remembered even when I worked for the state of New York and when I was in private corporations and I was with the federal government, I always came up with ideas that we implemented. And I thought, well, that's really, when you're an entrepreneur, it's stepping out of your comfort zone and going for what you really want to do and looking about how you can solve a problem for someone. Because that's when people buy. If you have, or it could be like with jewelry. Women like jewelry because they want to look great. But there's in financial planning, we want to have money so we can travel. So whatever you're doing, look at how you're helping, and that's where you come into it from. So I always think we all need a mentor, and some of you probably remember, but some of you don't. Years and years ago, in New York, a gal wrote a book called The Popcorn Report. She was a futurist, and a lot of her clients were in every kind of industry. And at that time I was living in Northern California, Sacramento, and I remember reading the book, and she said, everyone needs a mentor, and you need someone that is way above where you are. I didn't know Faith Popcorn from Adam. I called her up, and I said, I would like you to be my mentor. And she said yes. And for 1 year, every week she called me, and we had a 1-hour session, and I learned so much. I learned that it's very important to listen to trends. She was the one that told Domino's Pizza to deliver, because we were going to go into a cocoon stage where people didn't want to go into fancy restaurants. They wanted to be, you know, they were just doing too many things. There's another woman that they came out called the Nesbitt Report. A husband and wife team were the same, they were futurists. The wife, they're now divorced, and she lives in Colorado, and she actually has been a friend for years, and I'm going to have her speak at my California NAFE conference, because I think trends, sometimes we don't pay attention to them. We think, a good example, and some of you that work for the service have probably heard about March Air Force Base, which is in California in Moreno Valley. Many small businesses, if you have a business you can do globally, think globally. Stop just thinking locally. Because if something happens local, it can really impact your income. So there were a lot of people who had businesses they could do globally, yet there were some that just did it locally. Well, when the base closed, which now it's a reserve base, it hurt a lot of people in that town. But see, they never thought things would happen. So you really need to look at the trends because it could impact your business. And I encourage everybody, if you have a business that you can do it anywhere, start doing it everywhere, because it's going to make you grow so much faster. And ask the people that are happy with the services you provide to provide you with people they know that maybe you can help them as well, because that'll also help you build your bottom line. So I'm telling you, you need to find a trusted advisor to be mentored. Whether it's an advisory person, an individual, or an advisory peer group. And you know, you won't always keep the same mentor. There might be something you need to learn, and then you have this mentor and you learn that. Now you're ready for bigger things. Find another mentor. You want to keep growing because that's going to make you grow. You also want to think big. In fact, this weekend, the gal that came in from Australia, one of my friends was running seven conferences at the same time. And the Sheraton LAX had given her a lot of rooms, so she was filling them. So one of the rooms she gave away was to another friend of mine from Australia who's a NAFE member, Cindy O'Sullivan, who's an expert in book writing and getting it published and getting it to #1. And she brought some people with her. And this is an ask thing. So anyway, she called me up and she said, Robbie, we want to film our people on the stage because my other friend had all this upscale filming stuff. And she said, but we need to fill the room. Can you invite your NAFE members in? I said, if you comp them, if you pay for their lunch, I'll fill the room. So then I put it out to all my California NAFE people that those that could come, they were welcome to come free. They would learn so much about social media, because it was, not only was this group happening, but after this one was finished, this one was like Thursday and Friday to noon, and then you would go to the next room and you were going to even learn bigger things. And so they came and they walked away thinking bigger than they had ever thought before. I remember that, and then in the next room, I got to meet the guy that started Priceline, he's a billionaire, because I was on a panel in that room, and he is so I love down-to-earth people. They're about their heart, not about their pocketbook. But he said some things that I thought were cool. He said, one of the things we try to do is we try to do too many things. We're doing this, this, and this. Instead of finding the one thing that we're the best at, concentrate on that. The other thing he said he did is he went out and asked 10 people what was to give him one. Can you hear my voice without the mic? Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to use the mic, sorry. Because it just keeps echoing. He said to them, he said, ask 10 people what best quality they like that you have. Because sometimes we think we are this one quality, and yet people are going to come back and tell us qualities we didn't even know. And what is really funny, I've seen some of my members on Facebook now saying that we're there, saying, tell me one quality you like. So I'm thinking, oh God, listen, great. And I'm actually going to do that, because there may be things that I think, and actually I may be projecting something else, so it helps you grow. You want to ask for feedback, because it's very important. I'm going to be 82 in March. I remember my stepfather, I oversee him because he never had any children, my mother's last husband. He's 96 and he's in aborted care. And I remember he's always telling me, Robbie, you have to, before he could do stuff, now he doesn't remember. But he always says, Robbie, you have to slow down and stop it. And I said, Dad, I will never sit in that chair. In fact, all my NAFE members know if I die running a meeting, because I run 7 meetings a month at 7 different locations in Southern California, call Miller Jones and they know to have a big party. Everything's taken care of, because that's the way I want it to be. So that's going to be what I'm going to do, because I'm never stopping. Because I think when you stop is when you die. You need, and the other thing I've learned, as a senior, sometimes I forget I am a senior, but as a senior, I think that you have to surround yourself with people of all ages, because you'll learn, I have one NAFE group that is totally millennium, they're all young, so I learned, if I want to talk to them, I better text them, because they're not going to listen to me otherwise. And I remember saying I would never text. Then I realized that one of my daughters would never talk to me. If I left her a voicemail or sent her an email, forget it. But if I text her, I get an immediate answer. So we have to go with whatever the times are. So remember that. Whether we like it or not, if we're going to work, one of the things I usually ask people when I meet them is how would you like to be communicated? Is it email? Do you want to be text? Or phone? People forget about the phone. And I know, and the other thing, sometimes we forget about the little written note. Yet I hear when somebody gets a written note, how happy they are because nobody gets written notes anymore. So that's something. I use a lot of online cards because I like them, because I send so many. And I don't even send them for a reason. I just get up that day and think, oh, this is a good day to send a card. And then people will call me and say, how did you know I needed that day? I don't know. It's just the way I do things. So you're going to find a motive. When you have a bad time, and this was another tip somebody just said to me. She was a speaker at one of my networks. She said, everybody has a bad day. And when you're having a bad day, take 17 seconds and think about something that made you happy. And it's amazing how that bad thought will leave. So remember that. And I also had I was very fortunate in my life because I had some wonderful mentors. I'm originally from Hawaii. When I was 21, I worked at the Wine Village Hotel in Hawaii. I was their first they called it personnel then. It's now called human resources. So that tells you how many years ago. But Henry J. Kaiser, Kaiser Aluminum, Kaiser Steel, Kaiser Hospitals. He was 76, I was 21. And at that time, he was having his engineers build around the world an aluminum dome round from Liz Taylor and Mike Todd's. Some of you don't even know who they are. But they, around the world in 80 days. And I seemed like I always got in the elevator with him. And his engineers would say to him, Mr. Kaiser, there's no way we can do a round dome. And he would look at him and say, I pay you to find a way. And then he would look at me and say, Robbie, let this be a lesson to you. There is nothing in this world that is impossible. Then he said something else to me that has stayed with me my whole life, in another one of those caught in the elevator deals. He said, life is like a main highway. When things are not going right, think of yourself on a side road, but remember, all side roads go back out to the main highway. And when I was a single mom raising my kids on my own pay with no money from anybody else, from an ex, when things would go wrong, I think of that, I'm on that dumb side road again. And it was almost like I was back out on the highway. So remember that, those good thoughts. I always, every day before I go to bed, I write something that I'm totally grateful for that day. And if I have a bad day, I just read through that book. Because I'm so grateful. Number one, I'm grateful that I'm living. I didn't die from cancer. In fact, I learned don't ever invite my daughter when I have surgery, because she wants me to sit. And so the second day after I had the breast surgery, I sent her home because I needed to drive to a board meeting. So I just pinned them up and went to the board meeting. They're like, what are you here? Why am I not here? I have to run this board meeting. It's my responsibility. So you can do anything. So, take notes, make a journal. And a lot of times when you do a journal, that can be a source for a book. And that was the other thing. Being at that conference this weekend, this one gal from Australia loved our NAFE pin. I said, the only way you get it is if you'll build a network in Australia. So we're going to have one there in February. She got the pin. I ended up with no pin. And the other thing we're going to do is, Cindy does a series of books. We haven't got the thing, but we're going to call it Future Positive Thought Leaders, I think. But everyone in NAFE is going to have an opportunity to write a chapter for the book if they want. And she's going to publish it, take it to, she's had 5 bestsellers. She'll do all the editing, everything, and then you can be a published author, and it can be any of my NAFE members anywhere in the country, they can be part of it. As soon as we're ready, she's putting all the paperwork. I mean, this just happened 3 days ago. I said, I'm going to speak in a network, you should have it ready. Robbie, I have to fly back to Australia first. I said, okay. I'm always learning, everything I've ever learned. If I want to know something, I go get a book. Or I call up somebody I know that is an expert in it, because you never know enough. And and people like to be asked. I think the biggest problem is we hate to ask people because we hate to be rejected. They're afraid they're going to say no. Well, if they say no, go ask somebody else. They just haven't learned the art of helping each other. So I never think. They say no to me, I say, good, I'll go on. Then they come back and say, oh, I should have helped you. Because then they need me to help them. I said, I remember when I wanted you to help one of my members and do this, and you were too busy. Well, I'm too busy to help you now. So you get the message, and they say, oh. So they learn. Be aware of your beliefs and be open to shifting. Like she said, shift your perspective in order to view the world in a whole new light. Because the world is beautiful. Every day is beautiful. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff that comes in our world, but we can make it better. We can look at something positive out of everything. One of my friends, I think one of the best advices I heard is when you're just crammed with something that is going wrong, take 17 seconds and think of something that made you happy. And it's amazing how that thought will leave you. Because one of the things that happened to me as I was going through all the surgeries for my breast cancer, I went to and I know it happened in a hospital, because you get a blood test before you have a surgery, and then I had to have another surgery a week later, and I had a blood test then, and I found out I got Epstein-Barr syndrome. And Epstein-Barr syndrome goes into chronic fatigue if you get stressed. And I only had one attack. I was moving my stepfather's house and mine together before he went into board and care, and I couldn't even put my feet on it. And that, for me, I'm a very high energy person. And I said to myself, Self, you will never, ever have this happen again. So when something goes wrong, I just think of something good. I'll put on the song, girls just want to have fun, and I'll dance around the house.
and all of a sudden it's gone. So just do something like that, and you will find. Never estimate the power of networking, but go for a reason. I see people sometimes running from this one to that one. When you're going somewhere to network, figure out why you're going there. What is the purpose you want? Networking is you want to come back with. And then the other thing I see is they've got the cards in their pockets, on their desk, in the drawer. So you've really wasted your time. It's the follow-up. You need to follow up. You need to stay in touch. So find ways that work for you to stay in touch. If you have a CR system, put the names in, but put them when you come home so that you don't have a pile like this and then you don't have time to do them. I used to have them everywhere. I mean, I had drawers because I'm everywhere. Until I got one of my gals, her name is Wanda Allen, and she wrote a book. The sales are in the follow-up, and then she got me organized. So now, and she helped me pick a CR system that was easy for me. Because remember, I'm not technical. So find one that works. Take responsibility no matter what is happening. Don't try to blame someone else. Don't, like she said, don't have the victim. Because there are, if you're allowing somebody to have you be a victim, that's your fault. It's not their fault. You've allowed it to happen. So what you need to do is figure out how you get out of it and how you move on. So you want to also lead by example. I recently spoke at a college and I walked in and I was amazed at how the person that was a teacher was dressed. And I thought, how is this a role model for our kids? It wasn't. To me, we have to be the, and I remember when my last daughter, who's 47, my oldest is 60, when my 47-year-old daughter was in high school, one morning, I was just going to run. It was probably like the grocery store was right over there, and you know when girls had their hair in curlers and you tied the scarf? And she looked at me and she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm just going to run over to this grocery store to get milk." She said, "Your mother, you're not leaving the house looking like that." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because one of my friends might see you." And that always stuck with me. And about 3 years ago, I was coming back from LA and I had to go to the bathroom really bad. So I stopped at a Ralph's in a town I'm not even anywhere near. And I go to the restroom and all of a sudden I hear this woman running around the store. "Robbie Motter, is that you?" I said, "Oh my God, my daughter was right." So and the other thing is if you dress and you have an opportunity that's coming to you, you don't have to say, "Oh, I have to get dressed, I have to think about it." Stop thinking about it. Just step out and do it. Because I'm going to tell you, every time you do it, there's going to be some kind of a beautiful thing that comes to you. Maybe somebody there knows the person you need to meet, or they're going to be able to open the door for you. It's about showing up, as I said, is like a treasure map. And the other thing is to ask. Don't forget to ask. I do with all my meetings, I always have the girls get up and say who they are and what they do. But then I always have them add on it, and how you can help me is. And it's amazing to see how the girls run to each other. "Oh, I know some," it's so powerful. So I was always doing that. One day, one of the girls said, "Robbie, you're always asking us to do it. Why don't you ever ask?" And I thought, "Oh, okay." Because I really, and I said, "Okay, I want a white Maltese puppy, female, spayed, white, purebred." 2 days later, one of my members called me from another network. She said, "You don't know this, but I have that dog. And I'm getting a divorce, and that dog is yours." And so she brings the dog to me, and I'm known as the Queen Diva. So the dog comes, and the dog's name is Majesty. And she's got all these rhinestone collars, and she's my love. What was interesting to me, though, I took her and I've had her, but the girl has never called me, "How is the dog?" If I don't, I'd be wanting to know, are they taking good care of them? I mean, because to me, an animal is like they're your best, and they know. I mean, they are so smart. And just share a funny story. My gardener was there the other day, and I said, before I walked out the house, I said, "Your Majesty, when I'm done with the gardener, I'm going to take you to get groomed." So about an hour later, I come in the house, I can't find the dog anywhere. I look at all the hiding places. She found a new one behind my desk. I thought, how did she know? But they do. They know. They know when I was going through my cancer and I was recuperating, she was with me all the time. When I come home, she's at the door waiting for me. So, because I'm not married, I don't have, my kids are all grown. So I appreciate having that person even though it's a dog that cares about me every day of my life. And so we need to lead by example. Whatever we're doing, whether we're in our business or what, we need to run our business. And we need to really care, because, you know, even though you may have an issue, somebody may have an issue worse than you. And recently, somebody just saw me and contacted me, and she happens to live in my town, so she joined my Temecula group. And I learned, you know, because I listen, I find out about who they are. And I thought, oh, I can do a lot of things, but I don't know if I can do what this girl is doing. She has 5 kids. She drives from where I live to Orange County every day to be a legal secretary because she can make more money. Her husband is a stay-at-home father, but he needs a kidney. He's already had 2. I mean, one has stayed 4 years and another, and they've had 9 people come forward. And everywhere she goes, my kids and I need a kidney for mine. And she does little fundraiser things to try to raise money, because although they have insurance, it doesn't cover he's on 9 hours of dialysis every day. And she's the most positive person. So I just did a story about her, because I thought, you know, let's get the word out. Maybe more people will go to her GoFundMe and more people. But she's beautiful. She's so positive about it. And to top it, now she's going to go to law school, because she says if her husband doesn't get a kidney, he's going to die. And that she will have, in California, you cannot even get on the transplant list for 10 years. Because I have another person. So I told her, another person told me, go to Arizona, you get them faster. And we know people in Arizona that you can use their address. Just got to be able to go there. But it's 10 years to get out. And you know, if you don't get the right treatment, you could die. So she's thinking, okay, I have to look ahead, I have to think ahead, I don't want it to happen. But if I I've been doing all this work anyway, she's been in the legal field, she does stuff to cases, she's been a mediator, she's a licensed mediator. And so she thought, if I don't do this, I never will. And secondly, if I lose my husband, I'm going to have to because I guess he gets a little bit of disability, Social Security, I'm going to have to support my family. But she's even thinking beyond that, and I learned something I didn't know, that you have to be a lawyer 10 years before you can be a judge. So her ultimate goal is to be a judge. Because I said, can't you just know somebody and they open the door? She said, no, it doesn't work that way. And Lottie also said the other thing, communicate effectively, both in office. Tell people what you really want. A lot of times when you stand up and you tell people what you do and you think they know everything you need and want, they do not. I mean, I've had people say, oh, my customers are just anybody. They're not. If you sell a Mercedes, you need a customer with money to be able to buy the Mercedes. So you got to give a little thought. So when I was supervising so many people, you know, I tried to think how I could help my member, how I could help my employees, how I could move them forward, how I could be there when they needed someone. And I do that now with my NAFE sisters. I'm always available. In fact, when I spoke on this panel in LA the other day, I said, you can call me any time of the day or night. I get calls sometimes at 2 in the morning and I take them, because then I roll over and go back to sleep. But I feel better. And I think one of the reasons is, you know, since my stepfather's in important care, I don't know whether I'm going to get that call. And it could be that call, or anybody's call. So, and I said, and I don't have an answering machine. If you get a voice, it's because I'm talking to somebody else, and leave your number and I will call you right back. And I always do. I answer all my emails, and I get 1,000 emails a day. I answer every email every day. I do emails in the morning, and I do emails before I go to bed. And then, of course, I look at them on my phone throughout the day. If there's something I need to take care of right away, I do. So I try to do that. So communication is really, and the other thing is, if you're holding meetings, make them productive. Everybody's time is valuable. There's nothing worse than going to a meeting and nothing gets done. So remember that if you're planning meetings or something, give them something that they can take away. Like when you come to their conferences, you get something that you can take. And hopefully you're going to learn something from what I'm telling you. Know your limits. You know, we all saw Wonder Woman, but guess what? We're not all Wonder Woman. Even I'm pretty good, but I'm not Wonder Woman. So know your limits, and that's when the ask comes in. If you can't do something, ask. Somebody will help you. People like to help. And you know, it was really hard for me because I'm a giver. And then one day somebody, and maybe if you have the same problem of receiving, think about what this person told me. She said, Robbie, you love to help and give to people. Absolutely. It helps me make a difference. It brings love to my heart that I was able to do that, because if you've ever lived in foster homes and children's homes, you'll know that you guys are pretty lucky because you have wonderful directors, but I don't even remember any of them, of my homes, except the last one I did. I don't even remember any of it, my childhood at all. In fact, when my stepfather sold the book, I took my mother's photo albums to my daughter, and there wasn't one picture of me as a child. I have no pictures of me as a child. I remember two things in my life, three things actually. I remember when I was toddling that I had there was a German Shepherd in one of the homes, and I remember his name was Sandy. And I must have always been going here and going there, because he would get me by my diaper and pull me back. And I remember that. I remember my first Holy Communion, and I also remember when I graduated 6th grade that I was the only person that had nobody in the audience. But other than that, I have no memories. I think maybe I just came down somewhere, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm one of those aliens, I don't know. But so that was kind of surprising not to know your limits. I don't. But it's okay, it didn't stop me. So know your limits, know that you can't do it all, and find helpers when you can, because they want to help you, the team. Okay, I've got it. So find a mentor, be emotionally aware, and watch out and avoid the pitfalls of leadership. It's not always an easy job. I learned that when I worked in the government, is that when you're a supervisor or a leader, it is not an easy job. And you learn from the past and never stop improving. And keep showing up. You know, showing up is like a treasure map. And I have a business card. You guys can call me anytime if you want to run an idea, if you're trying to find somebody. You know, I may know them, or I know somebody that does, because we can help each other soar to the greatest heights that we've ever imagined ourselves going. But you can't do it alone. So remember, and that's what I love about NAFE. We care. We really do care. And we do, you know, we try to help where we can. So tune into it. If you are, the other thing is, if you are a member of an organization, you don't have to give a lot, but give something. And I think America's forgot about the word RSVP. Because every network, I don't care whether it's NAFE or any other network, they have the same problem. People do not RSVP, or if they do not show up, and then the others. So anyway, I hope that you've learned something from what I've shared with you today.